Well, I made it to the 6th grade. It was a great experience. Great day in my life. I had this teacher in the 6th grade who hated my guts. I didn't care for her guts. She was my reading and spelling teacher. And the only thing I ever made straight A's in my life was reading and spelling, and I was really bored. When a hyperactive person gets bored, things pop into his brain he has no control over. Things like get up and run around the room. That'll get you a whipping. In this teacher's class, because she hated me. She had this thing worked out with my father. It's called 2 for the price of 1. You get a whipping at school, you get a whipping at home. I'd sit in the back of her class, and I did my best to keep my brain occupied. I'd sit back there, and I'd make up these words that only I knew what they meant. And the reason she hated me was not because I made straight A's in her class, was not because I made up words, but because of the way I pronounced her name. She had a wonderful name. Her name was Miss... Barth! B-A-R-T-H. I'll never forget her. She was a big lady, too. She had thighs and separate zip codes. It was and she had one of these incredible hairdos. I've never seen one like it before or since. It looked like 10 cow patties with a hairnet over it. It was huge. I mean, you could house missionaries on furlough up in that thing. It'd go on for days, and Miss Barth hated me, so I'd sit in the back of her class, and I made up words. I made up big old words, you know, that only I knew what they meant. And she found a letter I'd written one day with these words that I made up. She came waddling over to me with that letter. You could hear her coming. Her thighs were apologizing to each other. Excuse me, pardon me, excuse me, pardon me, excuse me, pardon me. And she stuck that letter in my face. Whenever she'd get upset, she'd shake that head. That old dude would fly. I was dodging hairpins. She said, Mark, what is this? I said, can't you read? Whose idea were these? I don't know who made me wear these shoulder pads, but I was afraid they were going to fall forward, and I can't handle that. But she told me to write this letter, and I took a letter that I'd written myself. She said, why don't you write something that makes sense? I said, okay, Miss Barth, I will. So the next day, I took her a letter. I was very proud of that letter. Handed it to her. She read it. It said this, Dear Miss Barth, your feeble attempt to participate in any intelligent conversation only goes to exaggerate your already pathetic lack of mental ability. Sincerely, Mark Lowry. I got a 3-day vacation. Mama came to get me. The worst part of that whole deal is I got spanked for... My dad spanked me that night. He set me down, you know, like he did. He'd always explained to me why I was being spanked. Because usually I'd forgotten. He set me down. He said, Mark, if you ever write anything like that again. Did I spit on you? It'll flake off after it dries. Don't worry about it. He said, Mark, if you ever write anything like that again, don't sign it. My dad's a lawyer. My mother, after I got out of school, my mother went to school. I'm very proud of my mother. She got a psychology degree. She went to school. After I graduated from college, she went to college. And she carried a 4.0 average right through college and on into her master's degree. Now she's working on her doctorate. We have to call her Dr. Mama. And she's writing a book entitled How to Raise a Hyperactive Child and Live to Tell About It. And she graduated 4.0, summa cum laude. I graduated, thank the Lord. Was happy to do it. But I tell parents everywhere I go. I told my mama when I was growing up, after I'd grown up and was out of the house, I told her one day, I said, Mama, there's one good thing about having a hyperactive kid. Everybody should get the privilege of having one. Because there's two kinds of people in the world, hyperactive and boring. And I told Mama, I said, Mama, there's one good thing about having a hyperactive kid. We frost hair for free. Mama's hair turned gray and Daddy's hair turned loose. But I tell parents everywhere I go, anybody here got any of you adults got a hyperactive kid? Anybody? You got one? Anybody? 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 You got one? Boy or girl? A boy. Praise God. What's his name? Clayton. What a great name for a hyper person. Clayton, how old is he? 3. He's 3. Oh, we need to have prayer. You have got a long way to go. Oh, I'm glad it's you and not me. See, your hair's still blonde. It'll be gray in about 5 years. You better go get you a toupee tomorrow. But I want you to remember, I tell people everywhere, everybody I know who's got a hyper, I tell them this. You be careful how you treat little Clayton, that little hyperactive kid God gave you. Because one day he'll decide what nursing home you go to. Keep that in the back of your mind. But you know, if you want to get Clayton to bed, do you have trouble getting